space. The final frontier. No, wait. I wanted to do podcasts. The final medium. These are the voyages of Cassie and David.
Are you sure?
The adventures to talk about Vampire Diaries and Star Trek.
Are you sure this is what you want?
Oh, this is exactly how I wanted to start. Hello, everybody in podcast land. I'm David.
Oh, are we starting?
Yeah, we're starting.
Okay, let's try.
No. We're going with this. This is the real. And I'm Cassie.
Oh my gosh. Hi, I'm Cassie.
And this is going to be a whole thing. This is so fun. This is the inaugural episode of the Fight for the Remote podcast where we wrestle.
And I win.
Yeah, I mean, probably, yeah. I want it. I was going to say something. I'm like, we'll save that for later in the episode once people are tricked into listening deeper. The purpose of this podcast is for us to share shows that we love deeply with people that we love deeply, person that we love deeply. I mean, maybe we'll open the show to people at some point. We only have 2 mics, though. Yeah, fuck everyone else. We're the only people that matter. You audience, probably listening by yourself. I doubt people are listening with their partner. Hey, you could. Hey.
That's the whole point of the show.
Basically, what we're going to do is every week, we're going to do one episode of Star Trek Next Gen, which, that's my show of choice, as you can tell by the bathrobe I'm in, and as well as some of the decor. I pulled out some of the Star Trek stuff, but also an episode of The Vampire Diaries, which is a show that Cassie loves deeply. When did your love for Vampire Diaries start?
So I probably don't love Vampire Diaries quite as deeply.
When did your adoration?
As you like Star Trek. But you know what? I came to Vampire Diaries like probably a few years late. And I think it was back in the time when you were still like renting DVDs to watch series.
Yep.
I think.
Did you ever have the Netflix that was like by mail?
I did not. No. But because I went through this with One Tree Hill as well. And then I think Vampire Diaries, I think I did a move or something along those lines where I needed to binge something. And I was like always a fantasy buff. But when I grew up, I wasn't allowed to watch like vampire things or whatever. Very, very strict Christian upbringing. No Harry Potter. I could watch any Disney movie, but not things like Buffy the Vampire Slayer or anything like that. So here I was, somebody who loved fantasy, and I saw Vampire Diaries. Everybody kind of talked about it. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll just put it on in the background, and I binged it until I like did not see the light of day because I'm a vampire. And then I caught up, and then I started watching it like week to week, like everybody else, because I had cable. Back then,
wow,
Yeah.
The olden times.
The olden days. Back when you could PVR.
God, that's a word I haven't heard in a long time. I know your parents have a DVR or whatever, a PVR.
DVR. I don't know what it. I don't know.
Personal video recorder, professional. No, I think it's digital video recorder.
Regardless,
it doesn't matter.
They can
Nobody listening to this podcast has a DVR in their house. Actually, there's probably someone that has a DVR.
Somebody's got to still have cable and have the record feature.
Yeah. But it's not us.
No, we just have every streaming service, which probably adds up to the same price as
We're
cable.
getting rid of them one by one. we're putting them all on Plex. I mean, I would never.
I was going to say, what are you talking about?
I would never.
We would never do that.
Anyways, speaking of Netflix sucking, the reason I love Star Trek, and it's funny because you know me so much as a Star Trek guy, but before we started dating, I don't think I ever would have been like, I'm a Star Trek guy.
It's not Star Trek guy. It's a Trekkie.
Oh, okay. I don't even think I qualify as a Trekkie.
I don't know. You have a tattoo of it behind your ear.
Now I fucking do.
I almost called it an ear ball.
My ear holes.
No, ear ball.
My cornhole.
Oh, dear Lord.
What does that mean? I don't know. It's something that it's always been around. It was huge when we were young. My sister liked it, but when I was, living at home still, I was too young to really appreciate it. I like Star Wars way better. It was actually my first girlfriend that showed me Star Trek Next Gen in a real way. And I remember her showing me, she had the DVDs, but they weren't like the series. It was like the Q DVDs. So it was all the Q episodes or something.
Oh, random.
And I remember being like, oh, this is pretty cool.
How old were you?
18. 17, 18.
Okay, just a baby David.
Just a baby.
Just a baby David.
What do you think my first girlfriend was?
I mean, honey.
Me. And so I liked it, and I kind of got into it, and then I, never really watched it all the way through, but then I later had a roommate who was, again, more into Star Trek than I was, and then we kind of he would have it on, and I would watch it over his shoulder, and eventually kind of watch through Next Gen, then Voyager, and he watched Deep Space Nine. I didn't watch that over his shoulder. And then I think watched Enterprise. Anyways, but then like over the years after that, I kept thinking about it, and getting tired of Star Wars because it kept fucking up and being worse and worse and worse every single year. And then like I just wanted to watch Star Trek, so I started watching original series. And I remember like I was on vacation somewhere and I was kind of sick, and I watched the original series, and it clicked for me. It was like, oh, this is really good. And it really is impactful. And like the social messages, they might be like a little bit old, but they still hit hard today. And it felt so comforting and safe at that time. And then I kind of just went through original series, watched the movies. And it's funny, I know a lot of real Star Trek fans hate the modern movies, the J.J. Abrams ones, but those kind of helped invite me in a little bit more. I remember like before I was really a Star Trekkie, I felt like those movies were inviting, and they brought me into the world, and I like these characters, and yeah, they're like, caricatures almost of the original characters.
Yeah, but isn't that almost what the point of those movies are, is to bring Star Trek or whatever, this like older like TV show or anything, to this new generation, to bring in new fans.
Certainly.
While also like catering to the old ones a little bit, but I think it's supposed to bring in that next generation.
We won't stick on my thoughts for Star Trek too long because it'll come out throughout. And I'm sure as we get later on, exactly, there'll be kind of episodes that kind of break through it. But that's kind of your love of Vampire Diaries. That's my love of Star Trek.
I didn't tell you my love of it. You asked me when I started watching.
Oh, okay. I guess okay. When did you fall in love with Vampire Diaries?
Damon Salvatore comes on the screen.
Okay.
Is when I felt
like 35 minutes into the first episode.
No, I think I just have always had a love for fantasy, but I grew up with like more like Narnia and various things. Like sci-fi was not in my house like at all. Star Wars I didn't watch until 25 years old, and then Star Trek I maybe saw an episode here and there, but I was raised on Rocky movies and Bruce Lee, like it was a very different upbringing, but I was always drawn to the more like fantasy realm. Even when I was in my strict Christian upbringing and my mom worked at the Christian bookstore, I would always go in and be like, what's the most fantasy Christian book
I remember my mom
I could read,
trying to get me into Christian fantasy books. And they all sucked, except for Narnia.
No, you know what? I read some really good ones, like Frank Peretti, and there was a few good, but I digress. So when I got out of the house and living on my own, and I could watch Harry Potter, and I'm like, I'm a big girl, I can do what I want. And then I started watching like Vampire Diaries and just being able to get lost in it. I was never huge into Twilight. I didn't fully get that hype, but Vampire Diaries for me was a bit more. It clicked a little bit more, and But yeah.
Well, it's funny. I think we'll start with Star Trek this week, which is okay. Bear with me. I'm going to be on my phone, but I have my notes on my laptop. But it's running the webcam and this, so I need to pull up this. I think I'm on the wrong account. Oh my god, everything is a mess.
Yeah, seems about right for us.
Did you take notes?
I did take some, yeah, but I already have mine ready to go.
Oh wow! Put me on the bed. We are talking this week. Actually, I'll probably cut a little bit of that. We're talking this week about Star Trek: The Next Generation's first and second episode combined, which is Encounter at Farpoint, parts 1 and 2. Cassie, what did you think of that episode? Just kind of a general overview.
I really loved the episode. I think we need to also like preface this going in that we are not here to tear apart each other's shows.
No.
We're not trying to hate them. We're not trying to make fun of them. We have very similar tastes, and we like a lot of the same things in the end. And we're here to watch them together and laugh at them, love them, enjoy them. So we're not here to bash, but we're also here to be honest.
Yes.
So when things are cheesy, or when there's a 300-year-old vampire trying to hook up with a 15-year-old,
we're going to call it out.
We're going to call it out. We're going to talk about it. But we're not here to insult the other's TV show. We're here to learn to love it.
Yes.
Joke, kind of a thing. But I knew I was going to like Star Trek going into it.
Well, we've watched the Orville together.
Yeah, I love.
And we'll do
Orville.
a special episode at some point, I think, breaking down our thoughts on the Orville.
And like the connections to it. I'd love to do that. My introduction to sci-fi was actually like Firefly. And I was blown away by how much I loved that. So when you said, let's watch Star Trek, I gave you a hard time and I eye rolled, but I didn't mind.
Like it.
I didn't mind. So I really liked this episode. It starts off with a bang. Like.
How does it start?
I'm just saying the series
starts
off with a bang. Like it's like, I don't know the words I'm looking for, but it's like a pretty hard hitting episode with a lot of like moral. Help me, babe.
Moral discussion.
Yeah, sure.
Sure, yeah. Philosophizing.
Sure. That's exactly the word I wanted. So I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the journey we went on. I enjoyed that it's enjoyed.
Endured.
We're definitely going to get more of that from Star Trek than we are from Vampire Diaries. But I did appreciate like Q coming in and actually we might as well like should we dive into my thought with that?
Yeah, tell me what you thought of Q. Did you know anything about Q before the episode started? I can't remember if I like mentioned him or
not really.
Okay.
No. I didn't know anything. First of all, he looks real good in that like World War II uniform.
Really?
Yeah, looks real cute.
Interesting. He like doesn't even process as like a hot possibility to me.
No, not in the weird medieval hair bob wig, but when he's in like the
crusade ship captain.
When he's in like the army, like
Conquistador.
He looks pretty cute. But that's not.
Huh. I'll send him a message.
Yeah, let him
I wonder
know.
if he's like. I mean, you're not the first person to think Q is hot. Like the power he has.
Yeah, and he's got like a really good smolder. He's got these like very mischievous eyes. But I'm not flirting with Q. So I thought it was interesting.
I'm not flirting with Q. I'm flirting with
unless
you.
he's interested. So I thought it was interesting when he's like talking about the savagery of the human race in the past and the like kind of era that he's talking about, especially when he comes back into like where they're sniffing.
Oh, that's like World War III era.
Yeah. It's weird that we're kind of alive in it. Like it's not happening, but that's the years he's referring to, or like 2036 or something, I think they mention. And when he talks about all the things that were happening and stuff, it's like, okay, but we're kind of in that.
100%. And
that's eerie.
It's painful. Star Trek's been really good at predicting a lot of the future. We'll do an episode where we like kind of discuss, is Star Trek doing a good job telling you its universal story?
Yeah, I think we'll need to be way more into it.
But I think it's a really smart episode set up to kind of give you broad strokes of like how we got to where we are, and also set up like these humans aren't, the 21st century humans that we are. Like even though we're not quite as intensely tribalistic as we see the 21st century, in quotes, humans in the show, the 24th century humans we see, like they're elevated and they're better. And I love that Picard has to prove that, and he has to show that, and he has to overcome, some of his
Daddy Picard,
his darker instincts, or, his like tendencies to what seem to be violence, but they overcome them, that humans can be better. And I think that's something I love about Star Trek. We will stay specific to this episode. I don't want to go into like Star Trek love yet. I thought it's interesting because I've seen more Star Trek. We've watched the Orville. I forgot that the show starts so self-serious. It's pretty like, it takes itself very seriously in the first episode. Like there's always, captain's log giving you exposition for the episode. But the one they do in this episode, it's like this, Picard is kind of obscured in darkness, and he steps forward and half his face is like dramatically lit in darkness. And it's just like such a cinematic shot. And they put so much effort into making it kind of like more serious than even the original series ever was. And honestly, like the production values stay pretty consistent, but the lighting just kind of gets more lazy as we go along. Cause they have their sets, they have the lighting that's set up, and they just shoot in there. And they had pretty strenuous schedules and stuff, but this episode, you can see they were putting a little extra effort into the flair of the styling.
They gotta bring you in.
Yeah.
It's episode 1.
And so it's interesting. So you you told me what you like about Q. What did you think about Picard himself?
Well,
Daddy Picard?
Daddy Picard.
Do you think he's handsome?
I mean,
he's handsome.
Yeah, my daddy issues are going to come out eventually, so I might as well just come out swinging with them.
Daddy check.
But no, I find him like, as much as he is having to put out like stern and commanding, I still find him like, he still just has this warmth, and I really love how Patrick Stewart is able to portray that. Like, you're not going to mess with him, but even though he seems cold, he's not. He still is like, he has his team's back, and they rush to support him instantly. Like, a Q at some point sits in his chair, and the team all knows that Q's bad news, but they instantly all go like, excuse me. And he has to stop them. Right. But it's funny how like, I find him super relatable, how he, when he meets Riker, and he basically asks Riker for help on being compassionate towards children.
I love that.
He's like, I'm not a family man.
Yeah, but I need your help in seeming genial.
And like, I have a kid, but I do like, that really did appeal to me in a way. It's like, how do I pretend that I like children? I
love, no, sorry, finish your thought.
No, that was it. It's just like, I just really appreciate that he is able to portray this like this stern coldness while still bringing so much genuine warmth and compassion. Yeah. But with not being frilly about it at all.
Well, I really like he's really, contentious with Riker to start. Like, I forgot how confrontational he is, and he's cold, and he's kind of cold to him, but he's testing him. Yeah. And you get that sense. By the end of the episode, you get it. He's actually not an asshole, even though he kind of came across the way, but he's trying to feel out Riker and see if it's a good fit. And I think it makes it so rewarding at the end when Riker does kind of succeed. And it's interesting to me on this rewatch, seeing in the pilot some of the dynamics they were sort of trying to go for and won't quite land. Like, this time I wondered if... Okay, so this time, I always try and compare different treks and, see how there's different analogs to different characters. And so, Spock is, Captain Kirk. And in my head, yes. And we watch, you've seen the Orville and you've seen the modern movies, but we haven't watched original series movies yet. No. We haven't watched original series in general. It's way better than you think it is. And it's way more fun. But I always assumed that when they were designing the characters, they took Spock and made him Captain Picard, and they took Kirk and made him Riker. But what I think they tried to do is they tried to do Kirk as Riker, and Data is Spock. And
that makes sense.
It makes sense. But I also, in this episode, they kind of bond and are, more prominent than they'll ever be again. They're not they're both important characters, but they don't really have that many stories together.
Who?
Riker and Data.
Oh, okay.
So Data and Picard, or Data and Riker, spend a bunch of time later in the episode, in the tunnels and exploring the planet and whatever. And like, Riker's even like, my friend, like this, and he's really warm to him, which I really like. I think it's great characterization for Riker for being, I think, exceptionally warm. Like, Picard will always have a little bit of, formality to him that will soften him or like that will make him seem a little colder. That's more what I meant. But Riker will, kind of be like the Red Ranger. He's kind of like the natural charm and leader type. But he befriends Data. What was I saying with that? Who knows?
You were saying that kind of peters off in the episodes to come, but spoiler alert, geez.
Well, like, it never goes away, but I don't remember. It really felt in this episode they were trying to set up a dynamic that isn't really deeply explored.
I see what you're saying.
But
that was something that I liked, like, going into the episode when you're getting the introduction to, like, Picard knows he's getting his number 2. No, sorry, number 1, right? He calls Riker number one. Number one. And so like my anticipation and like following like typical tropes and shows was Riker was going to come in guns a-blazing, like probably a lot of pushback and sassy, the normal sort of thing, probably an attitude or whatever. But he comes in and he's very I loved how he was so accepting of Data. I was expecting him to give Data kind of a hard time, but he goes and meets him in the simulator's the Orville, in the holodeck.
Yes.
And when he finds him in there, he starts talking to him and he gets a kick out of Data and he kind of smiles. He's like, I think we're going to be good friends, sort of thing. And I'm like, I love that because I was expecting him to like give him a hard time or find him weird or whatever. And so I'm grateful that Star Trek didn't follow that trope and Riker just falls right into just wanting to help and following orders, but and having his teams back
100%
right away. Not needing to get to know them for them to be his team. They're his team.
Well, that's one of my favorite dynamics of Star Trek is that it doesn't fall into really cheap inter-crew drama very often. Like it's not like, there's like intership like politics that they're just like, I can't believe they said this, they did that. Generally, everyone loves each other, if not just respects each other, and they at least respect the position the person's in. And the drama comes kind of from external sources, and so people give each other the benefit of the doubt, or if there's like a weird brain virus going around, maybe not. But what I like is the drama is kind of more contained. It's not, cheesy. Well, it's definitely cheesy and it's very campy. But it's not like
Captain, I'm sensing.
Oh my God.
A powerful
shout out.
Yeah.
Pain. Marina Sirtis, is that you?
She's lovely.
Yeah.
She's lovely.
But that's also like kind of, you can tell the show didn't fully know its tone yet, where it was like, they kind of go a little too serious with that. Whereas later they back off on Counselor Troy being that prominent too. She's in the future. She's not really on the deck.
Let me discover this for myself.
Oh, you're right.
Spoiler.
I'm so sorry.
Oh my Lord. Damn.
It was funny, Zoe kind of watching the end of the episode because we watched it. So we watched that episode probably a month ago.
Yeah. Disclaimer. We did watch it once
because you had already agreed to watch Next Gen with me, and we're going to kind of like watch it as we wanted.
Agreed.
There was only one gun involved.
You watch it.
But we watched like 3 or 4 episodes or something, and then we came up with this idea for the podcast once we had these arms from the other podcast here.
Yes. Well, it had started with you saying you wanted just to do like Girlfriends React to Star Trek, and I was like, okay, to be fair. Also, those 4 episodes we watched, I mostly watched by myself because you were asleep within 5 minutes. But I continued to watch them. I finished them even with you asleep. So I just feel like props to me.
When you've watched Deep Space Nine over my shoulder, because when
we're playing video games.
Yeah, when I'm currently watching Star Trek by myself, that's what I watch is Deep Space Nine currently.
Yeah, that's the one with the bartender Quark.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about that one.
We're not talking about that one. We're talking about Next Gen.
One thing I wanted to mention too about Next Gen that I thought was really cool was the progressiveness of having, because this was 86, 87, you said?
86, I think is when this came out.
Okay. So the progressiveness of having the men in dresses.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. What's the sickest outfit in this episode? I want to do like a couple segments. We'll have to develop them. Audience, you can kind of help us. I think the sickest outfit is going to be a good one because there's always great outfits in Star Trek.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So can we agree we'll award that to
any of the men that were in the dresses?
Yeah, they were short.
They were really
dresses.
Short. And it caught me off guard at first, but like in a good way. It's like not something that I wouldn't like was expecting to see on Star Trek in 1986. And just coming off of like when we watched the Freddie Mercury special or whatever, like this is like in the heights of like AIDS pandemic and the target on homosexuality. And even though you and I know that any gender can wear a dress, this would have been associated, wearing a dress back in the 80s would have been associated mostly with homosexuals. So for this show to put their men in these dresses, and some of the women weren't in them, they were in pants and the men were in dresses. I just think that's so freaking cool of the creators, of the writer, of everyone involved. Cause like that would have actually been like a really huge, not step, but statement to be making during that time period.
I agree. I think it's fun too. It's cool. I feel like if I go to a Star Trek convention, that's what I'd want to wear.
You should. You got nice legs.
Thanks, you. It's okay. No spoilers. we'll continue.
You're so bad. I'm very fortunate that I haven't watched Vampire Diaries several times through. So watching it with you this time is actually like watching it like almost new for me.
When I'm trying to like we agreed, we're not trying to, find the flaws in the other show. They come up naturally. There's a lot of stupid stuff in Star Trek, a lot of camp, a lot of cheese, and a lot of bad episodes. There's actually like we've decided to do the whole series for both of them because there's 178 Star Trek Next Gen episodes and 171 Vampire Diary episodes.
So many.
It's basically 3 years of podcasts. Buckle up, buggos. But
we'll see how you guys feel after like 100.
We figured we would start at one season of both, and we'll figure it out from there. You like people, it when we podcast.
For people listening only via podcast, Fanny is my cat.
And she used to not be so cuddly.
No, but she's okay. Aww. Don't hate me though, but actually you might be warm. Fine.
Yeah, you can as long as you settle down, Fanny.
I think you were talking about how we're not here to tear apart each other's show. Yeah, and there's a lot of bad Star Trek episodes.
And like when I was going to walk you through Star Trek for not this podcast, there was a lot of episodes I would have skipped because they're not essential to the plot. It's more of an episodic show anyway. Like it's of that era, and so we probably would have skipped them. But I think it's fun to look at the good, look at the bad, and it's also easier just to pair it up because there's such a similar number of episodes. Like it's a weird coincidence.
Yeah, that they're so close.
178, 171, and Star Trek has a couple 2-parters, so I think we'll like this one. We'll just do them in one go. Mm-hmm. But back on track with the episode, I was reminded how boring Star Trek can be.
Oh,
when so. The episode starts, Q comes on because they're on their cat. God dang it, settle down.
All right, there you go.
They start and they're like, we're on our ongoing mission. All right, we're gonna go to Farpoint Station, pick up Riker, and then they get trapped in this big giant space net. And they're like, what the hell? And then this Q appears and is like, hey, what the fuck? Humans, go back.
Well, no, what he actually says is. Wait, didn't I take the note of what it was? Because I said I wanted to quote it for the rest of my life. Thou art directed to return to thine own solar system immediately. That's what he actually says.
Yeah. But then so that happens, and they decide, they're trying to figure out what to do because the ultimatum is go back or die.
Yeah.
And they're like, we're gonna make a run for it. We have this brand new spaceship. And you can tell they were pleased with their special effects department, and they're like, we're gonna spend a bunch of time on ships coming apart and going real fast. But there's that scene where they're all oh my god, I'm not even there yet. But yeah,
okay, go ahead.
Am I there yet? I guess that's what happens. Like, okay, we're gonna separate the saucer, and so they have the miniatures, which do look pretty good considering that they're like 35 years old. But they're like, we're going to separate the saucer, and it's all like the shots of, the saucer and the battle deck coming apart.
I literally have the dragged out scene of them reattaching to the station is so intense and suggestive. It reminds me of when you're watching the hot dog jump into the hot dog bun at the drive-in.
Oh, nice.
Like, it's just like this very drawn out like scene. Yeah. It's like, you're waiting. Yeah.
And like I don't know how it would have been.
Honk your horns, clap your hands.
I don't know if audiences back then would have found that sequence thrilling, or if they tolerated it in the same way that we do. But I found that even that wasn't as bad as the sequence where they're speeding up. They're like, okay, we're at warp 9, and it's just like everyone is just sitting there staring at what's essentially a screen of white lines going by. 9.2. Okay, Captain, now we're going to 9.3. And like there's so little that's happening, and it's just like, their world building, I guess, they're showing that in this era of Star Trek, things are faster than the original series, but it's so dull. And I get why when I was a kid, I thought the show was so boring when you compare it to...
I love you.
I love you. Bye, Fanny.
Bye, Fanny.
When I compare it to, Star Wars, where it's like the spaceship parts are so thrilling. And Star Trek, the spaceship parts are not thrilling. The best parts of Star Trek are people sitting down talking about the good stuff. And Q comes in and talks about the good stuff, talks about how humanity sucks. and is judging us by our past actions. And they end up making a compromise, judge us by our current self. And it's like, all right, a test. And then so Escape at Farpoint becomes a test where they have to go to the station, or they have to go to this planet where they've built this top of the line space station, this human specified Starfleet specification space station.
Say that 10 times fast.
Human specification Starfleet. I don't know. And they do you think that they did a good job showcasing that these humans are better than we are today?
Are we talking like specifically just the human race?
Yeah.
In this video.
Do you feel like in this episode, the representation of, these are the best that humanity has to offer? Do you think that you felt like these are the best? Like, this is the best version of us we could possibly be? Did you see that in this episode?
It was definitely a good start.
Yeah.
Like, they packed quite a lot and also not a lot into a short span of time. But I do think that they proved their point, like, even with like Picard self-sacrificing and not just going and like blowing the whole planet up, like when the thing's being shot at, and not just shooting at the thing that's shooting at the planet. They're trying to like deliberate, like, okay, why is this happening? Yeah. Why is it upset? What is the piece that we're missing here? Whatever. It's not just like shoot now, ask questions later sort of a thing. And I do think that's better than how we do a lot of things now. And so I do feel like it did do a good job I think they won the test. I'll put it that way.
For sure.
But as far as like the other races, like that alien planet did kidnap another like creature and tie it up. So if we're talking about races in general, or like the species in general, maybe not, but the humans came out looking good.
That's kind of the point, though, is to prove that humanity is worth letting explore and go and spread itself.
And I think so.
And I like that message of hope that, humanity one day, in the eyes of some galactic beings, would be worth it, would be good for the universe to go around. Because we think of us now and we're like, we're such a pest. And they're like, don't let us off this planet, please.
Yeah.
We would make everything worse.
Yeah. Well, like we talk about how like when the aliens fly by Earth, they just like roll up their windows and don't make eye contact with us. We're like, they're the hood.
Yeah, we're the bad
we're the bad side of town.
Oh my goodness.
The one thing that I found like really eerie to kind of watch is when they're in the courtroom, and Q is like giving them their sentence or whatever. The way that the humans watching are reacting.
Yeah.
They're thirsty for violence. They're like they're so intense and wanting just this just dramatic and anger and violence and everything. And like short of them holding cell phones, it felt so awkwardly
much like
real.
Yeah.
Like very uncomfortably real on how what is the word I'm looking for the collective, how so many people now respond in like, they just want drama. They just want clickbait. Those cell phones are out and they're watching and they're laughing and they're teasing and pointing and getting their jigs off for this. And I'm watching it and I'm like,
too real.
This feels too real. They might be dressed like scullery maids from the medieval times, but it's far too real.
The sentiment is very real.
Yeah.
No, Star Trek is definitely, a good predictor of the future. Like even like minor spoilers for a different series of Star Trek, but the riots that kind of cascade into what will become a really important change for equality. So like this violent riot that happens because of oppression of poor people happens in 2024 in the Star Trek universe. And it feels like we're kind of right there where it's like inequality is so bad that riots are going to start happening just because people are so desperate. But I
didn't catch that.
That's not in this episode.
Oh,
but
spoiler.
It's not. That's in. I think that's more of a Deep Space Nine thing.
Oh, I see.
But my question for you is Commander Riker hot or not?
Well, I think he's definitely charming. Like he's got like this twinkle in his eyes that I find like very, very inviting.
Yeah.
He's very like, he just has a warmth to him. And he's got like a little side smile. I really like that. So I would call him handsome.
Okay.
But he's not like Vampire Diaries. Damon Salvatore. That's hot.
I don't think they're going for that.
No, I know, but you asked.
You're right.
So I'm
You're
answering.
Right. Okay, next question. Out of 10, how would you rate Worf's makeup? Because it varies wildly in quality of paint and blend.
I mean, it's not awesome, but it's like...
Yeah, what would you describe the color of it as? Because it's not quite like... I mean, you don't know what he's supposed to look like. It's just off.
I was going to say...
It's off this episode.
I have nothing to compare it to, but it's kind of like gray
it's
toned and
not
it doesn't
quite...
look nice. But I did call... So what's... help me...
LeVar Burton.
Yeah, what's his character's name?
Geordie LaForge.
Geordie LaForge. When we first watched this episode, I called it looking at his glasses, and any of my like 80s and 90s girls will know the banana clips, the ones that you'd pull them back and you'd pinch in the back of your hair, and they were awful, but we did them all the time, and so they look like teeth. And I look at David, I'm like, he's got a banana clip on his face. Like that's just a banana clip spray painted. So I Googled it, and sure enough, they had come up with tons of different prototypes, and one guy just came in with a banana clip and said, what if we just stuck it on his face? So
and it's an iconic piece of sci-fi prop.
Yep. And it's just pretty much just a spray painted glorified banana clip on his head.
That's pretty great. Apparently it sucked wearing.
It was, very uncomfortable, but it's
so
funny.
I think we're kind of at the end of the discussion. If you had to pick one moment in the show, and I'll start so you can think about it, what most impressed you about this first episode? For me, it was the way that they have Q on that, like when he comes in during the 21st century trial segment, he's like in his red robe, and he's on this on this kind of like floating crane or this floating throne sort of thing. And he's on a camera crane, but it's mounted and kind of hidden so that you can't see it. But the way they do a bunch of these cool camera moves where the camera's moving, but Q's also moving. So it's got this multi-dimensional camera movement, which is really elevated for, a TV show. And it's really dramatic. There's this one shot of Q, being 15 feet taller than Picard, and he just kind of comes down, and he's so full of, he's not hubris. What's the word that I'm looking for? Not pride. Ego. And he's just like so sure of himself. He's so full of himself, and Picard's just this tiny little figure, and he just gets close and right in his face. And I found it really effective, and I don't know if the show ever reaches those cinematic heights again.
Good to know.
But I'll see. I've never really watched it with the critical eye. It's always been just like, it's a show that I enjoy and I watch.
Yeah.
But now
and sometimes it's okay to just watch things because they bring you joy.
Not anymore, baby. Now it's a podcast. Hi, Fanny. Hello again.
I genuinely like if I'm going. And it's something that you enjoy too, is I like the miniatures. Like I really did enjoy how they built that planet. Because it actually did, like to me, it looked like they had built like an entire set of this planet. And then you're like, oh, I love miniatures. I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess they would have been miniatures. Like you're so much more knowledgeable on the movie world and what goes into building movies. And you've taught me so much. And I'm really appreciative of that, because even in like Die Hard and stuff, like I never clicked that those are miniatures. This is things that people built. I was like, somehow they blew
a real helicopter against a real building.
I never thought about it. So I really appreciated that part where they were like the little village that they had built on the planet, and the planet itself with all the miniatures. I think that was really cool.
Yeah.
Even to today's standards, with all the fun effects and stuff you can do, there's still something just so quaint and endearing about using miniatures. Me, Fanny.
And it's like, because things in movies don't have to be real, but they have to be inspiring. Like it's the same thing with the Mission Impossible movies. Like we know it's not real. We know that he's not like hanging off the side of a spy plane.
I mean, it's Tom Cruise.
No, but I'm saying
he might be.
But like he's not really, like it's still a fictional world. There's still safety devices, still this. But what we have to believe is that like there was something real that went into it, and Tom Cruise really did hang off the side of a fucking plane. Yeah, he's tied in, he's got eye contacts to protect his eyes, but like it's real. And it's the same with like, we don't really believe there's a village, but like there was something real that went into it, like a real craft. And instead of a computer doing it. And Only getting worse. Let's not talk about that. Instead, let's talk about the sexiest vampire show we watched all week, baby. We're switching to the Vampire Diaries.
Yay!
So I kind of feel like I led the Star Trek discussion. Do you want to guide us? Do you want me to guide us through the Vampire Diary one? Here's my notes. Vampire Diaries. Speed ramp of a movie.
Speed ramp of a movie?
I think that's...
what does that mean?
So speed ramp is when, like, you know, it goes like slow motion to fast motion. It's more like... It's very 2000s. Like Fast and Furious, where it's like, it will be, you know, a shot and then it'll like speed through with the camera whipping forward. Anyways, I think it's when the vampire's on the road and, you know, it's like doing the setup. Hey, like teenagers going away. They love each other. They hit someone and then the figure's on the road and like, oh God, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And the man gets out and goes and checks on the person lying on the ground. And then the person like gets up real quick and like attacks them. I think it's that speed ramp that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, you had like a reaction like, ooh, that was fun. Yeah, I know that opening scene, like when he's getting out of the car to go check on the guy, I'm just like, I would never. I've watched too many of these shows. I'd be like, why was he standing in the middle of the road? Why is there fog? Nope, I'm not getting out. I'll call the cops, but I'm not leaving my car to check on the person on the road. I'm going to stay in my car. Because if it's not a vampire, it's probably like Chainsaw Massacre. I'm not leaving my car.
Yeah, but are you just going to sit there or are you going to drive away?
No, I've actually thought about this.
Okay, tell me your plan.
I've put a lot of thought into if I ever hit somebody on a dark, quiet road by myself. Because what am I going to do? I'm not going to be able to do anything. So I legit would drive away, calling the cops and being like, I've driven up a couple blocks. I'm like, I'm not running away. I won't leave. You can come find me. It's not a hit and run, but I'm too terrified to get out of my car.
Yeah.
I'm a single girl at 2 a.m. on a dark, foggy road.
Okay, you know what? That's a reasonable response.
Yeah.
And so
it has nothing to do with Vampire Diaries, but that would be my plan if I ever hit somebody with my car.
Speaking of single girls, the show then goes to Nina Dobrev. What's her character's name?
Elena.
Yes.
You
know, how would I describe the setup? Oh, it's Twilight, but slightly less annoying. I'm not. It's not like.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's funny because it's kind of similar. It's not quite the same, and it's certainly less obnoxious than Twilight. There's a charm to it. There's a fun to it. It's very teen drama. Like it's like kind of like the OC of Vampire World. Is that how you would describe it?
I'd say more One Tree Hill.
Vampire World. One Tree Hill and OC are different.
Child, that's the next podcast.
Okay, yeah.
It is actually because OC is mainly like rich brats in Orange County, whereas One Tree Hill, like some of them have money, but most of them are just like supposed to be regular people going to regular school.
Yep.
That's why it's kind of better, but they're both great, if you must know.
Okay.
Also, would like to disclaim that I don't just watch teen drama shows. I have other tastes. Hey, don't look at me. It's true. I'm watching Last of Us.
That's true.
Thank you.
We'll talk about that. We'll do a special one-off episode at the end. And so we get set up with Nina Dobrev, Elena, who's, you know, living with her sister and brother.
No, it's her aunt.
That's her aunt.
Yeah. So Elena has just lost her parents a couple months back due to a car accident, and now she lives with her brother and her aunt. And they're just about to start grade 11. Well, Elena is. So she's...
Her brother's 1 year younger?
I believe so.
But he's doing drugs.
Ooh, naughty.
Anyways, they're dealing with their trauma. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, hot new guy shows up at the school.
With the baggy jeans that you...
Yeah.
jeans that don't fit.
I mean, if we're going to go we should do best outfit on both shows and then worst outfit on both shows. I think he's got the worst ones. Those jeans... like make him look like his butt is an indentation.
Yeah, and then his like hood of his hoodie is like inside out. It was a weird choice. I was like, how did you not notice that the hood's inside out? Like the seam is sticking out.
But he doesn't. I don't know.
But it's several scenes.
Yeah, so they have their meet cute outside of the men's bathroom that she was just, you know, not assaulting, but confronting her brother for selling and doing drugs.
Yes. And his was like, you need to chill yourself.
You need to chill yourself. That's pretty good. There was like quote in this show that I wrote down that because I loved it. No. Benny, let me out.
I'll cuddle you after, I promise.
Oh yeah, my favorite line, no context I will give. When was the last time you had sex with a puppy?
I put that too.
What is the context for that? I don't remember.
Oh, you don't remember? Okay. So let me tell you, it's such a random line, but no, so he's chasing around, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on her name, but the girl that he was hooking up with all summer. And she says to him,
the one that will later be attacked?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, I feel so bad that I think I'm slightly nervous, so I'm blanking on the name. But so she says to him, you've got to stop like following me around like some lovesick puppy or something along those lines, or some like lonely puppy.
Yeah.
And he's like, when's the last time you had sex with a puppy? Which is such a weird
line.
Such a weird line. And you hadn't been paying attention and you just clued in like right on. You're like, wait, what?
The fuck?
And I'm like, I'm not explaining it to you.
Yeah, that's so funny. But so Hawkeye comes. Hey.
Hey. Hawkeye's name is Stefan.
Stefan, sure.
Stefan Salvatore.
Sure.
Show respect.
Show respect for Salvatore. And then, they meet cute. And then she goes and she's brooding at her parents' grave. She's writing in her diary.
Yeah, I actually really loved that scene in a way, because I think we dismiss a lot of what's being said in the show because it is so teen drama-esque. But she brings up like a very valid point, kind of dealing with like grief. It's like she went in her summer or whatever, and now she's coming back into society after losing her parents, and having to grieve that, but then almost being expected to be better already. And she comes in, and that would be probably really hard to do in high school, because everybody's whispering about, like, oh, it's the girl whose mom and dad died in the car accident or whatever. And
we find out that she was in the car.
She was in the car,
but she survived. But
she says that she's writing in her diary how like she went around saying to everybody she was fine, but she wasn't, and no one noticed. And then makes one comment before that segment kind of ends where she's like, people don't actually ever really want you to give the real answer anyway. No. Something along those lines. And I'm like, you know what? That's actually like a really like deep and relatable moment for this teen drama show. It doesn't have quite as many of those as Star Trek does, but
no, but I agree, because I mean, anyone who's grieved will know, there's a very short window of time where people have sympathy for your grief, and very quickly people are like, yeah, it's been enough time.
Yeah, well, like the dick teacher.
Oh, what does he say? That was so weird.
He's like, I was lenient last year for obvious reasons, but summer's over. Like,
yeah, what?
Like, it's like,
Also, it was a question that no one answered, and then you singled out this fucking girl. Like, what the hell is wrong with you, you asshole?
It's okay. Stefan Salvatore puts him in his place.
Yeah, it was pretty intense.
Tells him to go look it up in the archives.
Yeah, it was a strangely written scene. I think the acting in the show, so in the first episode, was not an issue. Everyone kind of hits their marks, does their thing. But some of those confrontational scenes are like so intense and aggressive.
Yeah. I'd like to say that changes. I don't think it does.
I think that's the point of the show, though, right?
It is
that drama.
But I am glad that you brought up like the acting and stuff, because it's easy to write it off as cringy, and of course it has its cringy moments. That's kind of its point. But when you take a step back and realize, wait, these are teenagers.
Yeah,
it actually does take the cringe factor out, because let's be real, and being a teenager is kind of cringy, and I don't say that as in an insult to teenagers. I say that in a way like when my Facebook memories pop up and I look at what I was putting out there.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay, no, this is just how teenagers are. And so then it's like, oh, okay, it's not so bad. So the actors actually do a really good job at capturing the essence of being like a dramatic, I don't even want to use the word cringy, but just like a typical teenager,
And typical teenagers, there's a party in the woods.
Yes.
And, everyone's got their drama that's set up and kind of paying off. There's the blonde girl that likes Damien. No, not Damien. Damien's a bad guy. Salvatore. What's his name? Salvian?
Stefan.
Stefan.
Yeah.
Salvatore is there, and there's a blonde girl who likes him and wants, to be something with him, but he doesn't have eyes for her. He has eyes for Eleanor. Eleanor.
But you're completely skipping over my girl Bonnie, who's the the quote unquote witch who is apparently psychic, but then she grabs Elena and has a vision of the crow and the fog in the woods.
Yes.
You can't forget Bonnie.
Oh yeah, we're at the cemetery, and fog rolls in, and then there's a crow, and then Damien's there.
Oh my gosh, Damon's not there.
Stefan's there, and they have an encounter, and then but she's so thrown off, and she runs away.
No.
He runs away.
Did you even watch the episode?
Yes, I most certainly did.
She
madam.
hurts herself and starts to bleed, and so then he takes off. And I wanted to ask you, so that's the first time that we get to see a little bit of Vampire Diaries versions of vampires. And you being a Buffy fan, what do you think of Vampire Diaries?
I think it's probably a smart choice to have it be a little more subtle, not as, Klingon-esque.
Yeah, the makeup is a little bit better.
But I love the Buffy vampire look. And to me, it's hard to separate, my nostalgia from objective truth, but I thoroughly enjoy the look and I think it looks fine when they fully transformed into vampires. The morphing tech at the time, so when they would go from human face to vampire face, and it would be a digital transformation between these two practical faces, that looked terrible. But we're not talking about Buffy. If we did...
No, that's what I was asking you, like how you felt about the portrayal of the vampires in Vampire Diaries.
So far, it just seems like their eyes turn black and they get sharp teeth.
Yeah, I think that's about it.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
A little less dramatic, I suppose.
No, and I enjoyed when the brothers... we're sticking... Let's go linearly. I think the show, what we should go linearly. So we're at the cemetery.
Okay. He didn't do that with Star Trek.
I want to. Next time we're doing it.
Okay.
We're going to go through beat by beat. So after the what's the place called? Cemetery called.
Okay.
What happens?
So after the cemetery and after Stefan has fucked off because he can't handle the sexy smell of Elena's blood. She's at her house and she's getting ready to go to this party, and Stefan shows up at her door. And
he has her book.
He has her diary, and she nearly when he hands it over to her and he apologizes or whatever, and he's like, "Yeah, well, I know that I wouldn't want someone to read mine." And she's like, "You keep a journal?" It's literally nearly climaxes at the thought of this guy keeping a journal. And I'm like, oh, we have low standards.
Well, I mean, especially back then, men who were in touch with their feelings were a rare breed. I think that, there is more men, or an acceptance for men who are in touch with, their quote unquote feminine side and journaling and, talking about their emotions. But back then,
yeah, back then when it was better. Men bottled it all up inside.
Shut the hell up, men. Shut the hell up.
Totally kidding.
Yes.
Just for the record.
Most shocking line in either show. Can I say hot tranny mess?
Yeah, Bonnie does say that. She goes, "Can I say hot tranny mess? Is that still okay to say?" And we rewound it twice.
Yeah,
and then
subtitles.
Subtitled it just to be sure.
Like, no, they didn't say that.
Because this is 2009, which I guess is quite a while ago now that you think about it, which is really scary. To me, it's like, it's 2 years ago.
14 years ago.
4 years ago. Elena does quip back. No, I don't think we can say that anymore. So at least there's that. Oh man, I don't think I've heard that word in a decade.
No, not
for good reason.
I also wanted to shout out the soundtrack on the show.
Yeah, the soundtrack's fire.
Is it always that dense? Because it feels like there's no score. It's just these big hits. Well, not hits, but these big songs. There
is still some score throughout, but for the most part, Vampire Diaries was known for having a really amazing soundtrack. I don't know if in a roundabout way it was kind of, because I think One Tree Hill ended not too long after it started or around the same time. And One Tree Hill was also known for having like a really amazing soundtrack at all times.
I see.
So I don't know if they were kind of like riding that popularity and that high of having that be such a prominent thing in shows, because music, it still is everything. But there was something about music in like the late 2000s. It was just like, I don't know.
Well, there was, I think there was something about in the 2000s. Just say that.
There's something about the music in the late 2000s, or even just in the early, like the 2000s.
I mean,
too.
part of it is that we were in high school around that time. So it's like, that's an age where, you know, you're impressionable and you're making a lot of big memories. And so no matter what, you'll always have a great appreciation and affinity for the stuff that you were taking in at that time. So I think like,
fair.
I think music has really changed, and like, I like the music of that era better too.
I wouldn't say I like it better. There was just something about the impact that it had. I don't watch a lot of like the teen drama shows that are really big now, but I just don't notice it the same as how, like even you said, like there was so many songs in just like one short episode. I don't know if they quite do that the same way as they did then.
I don't know.
I felt like music really drove a lot of the shows.
But we also don't watch teen shows.
True.
Like we
let me know if we're wrong.
Yeah, so people who watch teen shows, let us know if there's a ton of soundtracks. Because like they still do it. I mean, Kate Bush got a huge uptick because of Stranger Things. Shout out to the cover of
I was going to say
Run Up That Hill.
Yeah, Running Up That Hill. The OGs knew that it came from Vampire Diaries first. I'm just kidding. Just
yeah,
jokes.
so she gets home, she has her diary. Is that when Damien shows up?
Damien.
Damien.
You're doing it on purpose now.
Yeah.
You're going to die.
Damon shows up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not at the party.
No. We're not at the party yet. Doesn't he find him before?
No. So she asks Stefan to go to the party with her. They go. Caroline's flirting with him. He's not interested.
That's the blonde girl.
Yes.
Okay.
Elena and them are talking, and then it really drives me nuts that I can't remember, because she's Matt's sister.
Oh yeah.
I apologize, Vampire Diary fans. I'm totally blanking.
The people listening to this first episode, there's like one person who's like, I love Vampire Diaries. How dare you?
She is being attacked by her boyfriend. Like he's like basically forcing himself upon her.
Yeah. So she's like, oh, not here. I don't want to have sex with you here. And he's like, kind of just keeps pushing.
Yeah. So Jeremy goes and breaks it off.
That's Elena's brother.
Yeah. She tells him to get lost and says that she wants nothing to do with him. But the reason is that we've kind of find out is he makes her feel too vulnerable because he really sees who she is and wants to know her. And she doesn't want that. That's too scary for her.
What does she say? She says something so weird. Well, I can't remember. Yeah. It doesn't matter.
So anyways, he kind of just leaves her in the woods and she's walking around all drunk. And then the fog rolls in and she doesn't think anything of it. She's just like, rolly fog. I'm like,
word.
Why are you not running?
Is that the sign of vampires in the show? Is like, if there's vampires around, there's fog?
Honestly, I can't remember if it is like a thing that keeps going,
maybe
or if it's
like
just tied, or it might even just be like the specific power.
I see.
Anyway, I also like don't want to spoil too much, so we'll just have to keep watching.
All right.
She gets attacked in the woods, and then Stefan, they find her. They stumble across her because Elena follows Jeremy into the woods. They find her. They freak out. Stefan takes off to his home, and that's where he finds Damon. And what does he say? What does Damon say? What's his first line?
My name is Damien.
No.
My name is Damien.
You literally said it when we were watching it.
I like to fuck puppies.
What is wrong with you?
What is it? Oh, hello, brother.
Oh my God. Why was that so hard for you?
I
have to give you props because Damon just comes into the camera, like the camera view, and you can't even fully see his face yet. We're not fully introduced. And David's sitting beside me and he goes, hello, brother. And a good few more seconds passes before he even says it. So I was pretty impressed that because you hadn't seen a clip yet.
I definitely hadn't seen a clip, but TV shows sort of have their formulas.
I was trying to give you props.
Okay. You're right. I'm a genius.
You are. You could have written Vampire Diaries.
I'm a genius. That's what we say to each other. We're like, when we predict a line, because you do it too. You sometimes predict lines. And as we're going through shows that are older, shows that have built the foundation that other shows use, you can kind of feel the beats before they happen. And so it's fun to say the line sometimes.
It's just that line, "Hello, brother," is like an iconic Vampire Diaries line.
Oh, really?
Yes, because that's when Damon comes into the picture. So it's like one that's usually quoted. It's on mugs. It's on shirts. It's a thing. So when you, sitting beside me, never seeing it, went, "Hello, brother," I was like, the fuck you did?
It's because I like Metal Gear Solid and they're all brothers. But it's different. Brother! Basically the same.
Do you have a stroke? What just happened?
I'm really good at voices.
You're so good at voices.
So that's how the episode ends. They fight, right? And he's like,
no, I don't think that's how it ends.
How does it end? They're at
See, it just shows you like the beginning of Vampire Diaries is like slightly. Oh no! It the sister that was attacked is in the hospital and she wakes up and Matt is sitting beside her.
Oh yeah.
And she can barely talk, but all she's able to get out is vampire. And then I believe that's how.
Yeah, it cuts to black.
Yeah, there's a couple like cut scenes in between there where it's like Stefan brooding over his diary and Elena brooding over hers. But it's very much a traditional like pilot episode.
Yes.
It doesn't quite have the same impact as like Star Trek does. Vampire Diaries is something. It's a story that more like it definitely builds episode per episode per episode. I don't think it ever really concludes and wraps everything up in a bow and then moves on to a completely different thing. So,
well, that's definitely that era of TV was becoming, we were stepping into episodic and into the serialized era where it was all about continuing drama throughout the season so that you have to watch the next episode. Whereas Star Trek was of the era that, you play whatever's on the TV and you just kind of watch it when it's on, and each episode has to tell a full contained story. And I think
Vicky.
Oh, Jeremy's.
Vicky is the sister's name. I was like, I'm sorry, I have to go on my phone and find this before I end up losing my mind. I feel so ashamed even being on here talking about this show. And her boyfriend is Tyler.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not nervous anymore. I know the names.
Pilots are always tough, and I think Star Trek has the advantage of this being a first episode. I don't know if it was officially a pilot or not, because there had been a whole Star Trek series before. There was these movies, and it had kind of picked up new steam again. And so it wasn't really the pilot in the same way that Vampire Diaries, where it has to just kind of establish everything. Star Trek already was established, and it was just a new start.
Yeah.
But I think Vampire Diaries did a formidable job.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely like intriguing. Like it makes you want to keep watching because now it's like, okay, Vicky just outed that she was bit by a vampire.
Yeah, which is unexpected. Normally they hide it so long.
Well, because what it's passed off as is animal attacks. But there hadn't been any big animal attacks in decades because Damon and Stefan had left. So there haven't been vampires in Mystic Falls. But now Stefan comes back and all of a sudden there's all these attacks, and we kind of skipped over that, but he calls him his uncle, but it's really his nephew.
And he's human, he's not vampire?
No, he's just human. And he's like, Stefan, why are you, like, you told me you weren't going to do anything. And Stefan's like, I'm not.
Damien's son?
Damon.
No. Damien.
If you don't start saying it right, I'm not going to do this podcast.
No, I'm going to do it just to mess with you.
No, I'm gonna walk off.
Okay. Demon. Demone. Anyways, so that the uncle is his kid? Damien.
Say it right.
Damien.
Say it right.
Damien.
Damon.
Oh shit, Damon.
I don't know. No, it's not his kid.
Then who's the dad of Damon?
Well,
oh wait, no. Who's the uncle? What's his uncle? Uncle Frank?
No, Jacob. I think it's Jacob. We're doing a really good job. I don't think it's like his real nephew. It'd be like nephew. Like somehow,
but they are related. Okay,
they are blood related.
But
you got to remember, like the Salvatore, like Damon and Stefan are, I think, like 100 something.
That's what I was going to say. Is I didn't understand how the timing would work.
Yeah,
but okay.
so just related. So it's like nephew.
Sure.
But
yes, Stefan is the good guy. Damon is the bad guy. But he's the hot one. He's the one you have the crush on. Yeah,
I mean, I've grown up, so the the bad boy serial killer vibe doesn't really do it for me the same as it once did, you know? But yeah, I'm definitely a Damon stan than a Stefan.
Sure. It was kind of shocking to me how similar to Edward Cullen Stefan is presented as.
You think?
Yeah, they're like the same.
What? How? Just because they're both white boys?
With like that same haircut. And they dress the same. And
I don't think so.
yeah.
I don't think so.
Whatever. It doesn't matter. I'm way more intrigued by Damon.
I'm gonna kill you.
But I'm excited. I'm excited to keep going.
Yeah, I'm excited for you to get a bit more into it because I really do feel like the characters develop and become more interesting. And there's so much. There's just so much that happens, and I can't even give you like tidbits of it. But it's going to be very fun to kind of watch your journey in like this clusterfuck of a show.
Well, I'm beyond excited because I know you're gonna like Star Trek. I know there's gonna be tons of shitty episodes and stuff, but it'll be fun. I think I'm excited to watch it one episode at a time because as I've gone through it, I usually binge it. You know, you kind of watch a couple episodes here or there.
Just about to say it'll be hard to not binge it,
but I think it's good because it almost simulates the experience of its time, and it also allows you to think and absorb more of it. I find with Star Trek, if I went to a Star Trek trivia, I would lose because I don't absorb any of it. If you're like, remember that episode when this happens? I'm like, oh yeah, that did happen, didn't it? Whereas if you're like, tell me, a time that an alien did something like this, I'd be like, I don't fucking remember.
Yeah.
But now with, having to digest, I feel like I'm going to internalize even more Star Trek than I ever have.
Very
You ready?
excited.
I'm going to get more Star Trek tattoos.
I hope you do. I love them.
Right on my eyeball.
Right
on my eyes.
I will not get Vampire Diaries tattoo.
No?
No. But I do. I am excited to share the show with you. I think like maybe one day, like I'm probably more of like a One Tree Hill, like would have been like my major binge that I've seen quite a bit.
But you just did it.
Well, and I feel like Vampire Diaries suits the Star Trek, like
it's more complimentary. Yeah.
It complements them well. And I'm excited about it because I haven't watched Vampire Diaries a ton. I was only just starting to rewatch it a couple months ago, and then I petered off because I wanted to watch sitcoms. So I'm glad that I did though, because I get to watch it fresh with you. Yeah. So it is going to be like watching it kind of new for me.
Yeah.
As well. So any of the diehard Vampire Diaries fans, don't come at me. I just really, really love the show, and so I'm really excited.
Well, and welcome, because I don't know how many people. I mean, if we're being. Like, I think, unfortunately, to start, it's going to be a lot of people from, the Linus sphere that are going to be watching this. And I think most of them will be more acquainted with Star Trek than Vampire Diaries.
And fair enough.
But the aim is we want to reach you Vampire Diaries people. People that don't care about Linus things. Or maybe you do, but, people that are kind of outside the regular sphere. So we got to find people that are more like you, that are more cool.
And even though
we're going to... Not Linus people aren't cool, but...
And even though we're going to be spoilerizing everything... My hope is that it'll kind of like intrigue people to try shows maybe out of their normal wheelhouse. So often we like just dismiss it as like it's a chick show.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I've had other partners in the past, and I've even noticed with you, I put on my chick shows and you'll be like playing a game, but then before you know it, you're intrigued by the drama and the stuff that's happening, and you're watching, you're like, okay, well, what just happened with that person? I'm like, well, if you've been watching, and but I used to love it because you'd start asking me questions, and then I'd get to catch you up on my shows and stuff. And so I think if we were more open-minded and tried more of each other's things, there might be something out there that you might like. You might not hate Vampire Diaries, Trek fans. You might not.
And I think what we're going to recommend with the show, like we're figuring it all out. We're also figuring out format. We're figuring out sections. So yeah, if you have good ideas for segments, let us know.
And I've never done a podcast before in my life.
You did amazing. Congratulations. You're the best.
No, you're the best. I love you. Thanks for carrying me through that. I will be better.
No, I genuinely did great. But I think I would recommend to follow along. I would just say watch one episode of both a week, or one or the other. But I think we're going to try and give enough structured an explanation as to what happened in the episode that if you haven't watched it in a while, you would be reminded.
Yeah.
So I would recommend watching both or one. But if not, we will give enough explainer that you'll kind of get the context of it ideally.
Yeah. So next week, episode 2
of Vampire Diaries. No, episode 3 of Star Trek.
Oh, you're right. Episode 3 of Star Trek, episode 2 of Vampire Diaries. Watch them and then we can talk about it together.
Yeah.
Kind of.
So until then, follow us on Twitter at what I call it, Fight for Remote. At Fight for Remote is the Twitter. fightfortheremote@gmail.com is the email. Send us your questions, your ideas there. I'm not gonna cut that. I'm not gonna cut that.
You just
sneeze.
released a demon.
No, a daemon.
No, I knew you were gonna do it. I knew it. As soon as I said demon, as soon as it left my mouth, I'm like, he's gonna do a play on the word daemon, and
we'll have like a TikTok and some other places
we'll
to
set
go.
things up
But
as it goes,
I think the TikTok will be us just videos of us reacting to important moments of the show. I think it'll be funny.
Yeah, it'll be great. But yeah, if you have any feedback, any questions, any suggestions,
or money, just e-transfer. Just don't.
But no, I'm excited to do this with you, babe.
I love you.
I love you.
And
you make life better.
You make my life better.
Thanks for watching my shows.
And thank you, audience, for watching our show.
Thank you.
Until next week.
We love you too.
Goodbye.
Bye.